I'm going to start off by creating a cylinder with 12 subdivisions on the axis, and I'm just going to make sure that it doesn't have any subdivisions on the cap. So I'm going to go into vertex mode, and I'm just going to change its height a little bit. And now I'm just going to use my extrude tool to create some new faces, and I'm going to delete the ones at the center. Now I'm going to insert some edge loops, and I'm going to use my scale tool to just scale them up and give them a rough barrel shape. And now I'm just going to delete the edge loops that I've just created. So now what we have long faces, strips, and now what I'm going to do, I'm just going to select all of them and I am going to extrude them out. I'm going to make sure in my extrude options that keep faces together is off. So that's very important. Now I'm just going to push them out, and now you can see we have that barrel look with the wood strips being uh, pushed out. And now I'm just going to go back and use my multi-cut tool to just connect all the vertices that we had deleted earlier with the edge loops. So I'm only going to do this for one side, then I'm just going to delete the other side and mirror it. That way we don't spend a lot of time doing the same thing. So I think that's done. So I'm just going to delete these faces and the rest of them there. And there are a couple of more faces left. So I'm just going to delete them as well. And now I'm ready to mirror this over to the other side. But before I do that, I'm just going to delete these edges because they really don't do anything. They're not that useful. We only want quads. We don't want any triangles at this point. So I'm just going to mirror that. Okay, cool. So now I'm just going to fill in the top face like so. Then use multi-cut tool to create edges for it. I already did the bottom when the video was paused, so I can only concentrate on the top right now. Okay, so everything looks as it should. So I'm going to hit my to go into smooth preview mode, and I'm going to select these edges on the side, and I'm just going to crease them. So once all of them are selected, I'm just going to my crease tool and I'm just going to crease them out. There's still a couple of edges I left out, so I'm just going to select them. There's another one here at the bottom. Okay, so with that done, I can start adding in my rings, and what I've just done, I've duplicated the barrel. I'm going to add in some edge loops on the duplicated barrel. Select the faces, delete the rest. Now I only have this ring. And now I'm just going to select the faces outside the ring, then invert the selection and delete the ones between the wood. And now the space left between them, I'm just going to fill them out with the bridge tool. I'm only doing this for one half of the barrel because I'm just going to mirror it onto the other side. So I'm just going to position it. I'm going to scale it inwards, and now I can extrude it out. So I want to duplicate another copy at the bottom, but in order for me to do that, I need to first center its pivot. Once it's centered, I'm going to duplicate it and scale it by a value of -1 on the y-axis. This should position it nicely at the bottom. So I'm just going to repeat the same thing. There are a couple of errors I need to fix. We don't need the interior faces, so I'm just going to delete them. And now we're just going to scale it by a value of -1 on the y-axis as we had done earlier. Now we have our barrel and we have our barrel rings as well. So at this point everything is done, and now if I subdivide it, it still maintains its shape because of the creasing. So now I'm just going to go in and create UVs for my barrel. I'll start off with a planar UV projection, cut in some UV lines, and now just hit unwrap. I haven't saved my work, so I'm just going to do that very quickly. So once I've unwrapped them, I have my barrel, I have my top side of my barrel, I have the bottom side as well. I'm just going to scale them up and position them nicely. I'm going to now to unwrap my barrel strips. I'm going to smoothen them out, sorry. Now I'm just going to crease them again and add some subdivision. I'm adding subdivision because I'm going to need to sculpt this inside of ZBrush to add detail, and I don't want to have to keep on subdividing it multiple times within ZBrush. So I usually like to start with a base mesh that has fairly high subdivisions. So I've just thrown it into ZBrush, and now I'm just going to subdivide it multiple times, and it has a nice uniform resolution. And now I'm going to start off by sculpting some wood details, the wood grains, that is. I'm using my damn standard brush. Okay, so the wood details are done. Let me go to the top and do the same thing. The bottom. Now I can move on to my metal strips, but before that let me draw out a hole in the barrel. Then use my move tool to push it in. Then I'm going to use my flat brush I'm using radial symmetry as well. Now I'm just going to switch to my planer tool to cut into those flat edges that I created. And this just brings out a banged up kind of look to the metal strips. Now I'm just going to bake all my details from the high poly model to the low poly model that we created inside of Maya. So we have our occlusion map and we have our normal map as well and our curvature map. And also our object space normal. So these are what we're going to be using inside of Substance Painter to texture out our barrel. So I'm just going to export them, create a folder for them. And now we can move on to Substance Painter. So create a new project, import my barrel, textures as well. And I'm just going to bake out my position and thick map. And I'm working at a resolution 1024. Start off by filling it with wood grain texture, making it a bit dark. And now enhancing some of the wood grain details by adding in a mask with a generator, just to make the wood grains a bit darker. Using color selection to create a material for the metal strips. Just playing around with the metal parameters to give me something I can be happy with. I'm just testing out a couple of things that I could draw on the barrel. I don't have any reference images, so most of what I'm doing is just from my head. I think an X would look okay. So for now, I'm just going to leave it as it is. And I'm going to just create my big layer and try to bring out stylized effect to my barrel. So I have two variations for this barrel in terms of texture. I have a dark kind of woody texture and I have a light one. So I'm just going to be exporting all of them. So this is the dark one. Just make it a bit not so too dark. I think this color was okay. So save my project and export all my maps. Sorry. So this is one. Now I can export the other one, the lighter one. And for this I only need the base color. So let's visualize everything inside of Marmoset to see how our asset would look like inside of the game engine. And we're done.